So for anybody that's been playing drums for any length of time, or anybody that knows anything about drumming, it's really obvious what that was. That was Paradiddles. I'm an immense fan of these. I've been playing them since I was 11. I like referencing the really early superstars of drumming, Gene Krupa, Buddy Rich, Art Blakey, who all use Max Roach. He's another one to watch for and have a listen to. Get some of his early records. They all used it in their soloing in the sort of heyday of jazz. And then people like John Bonham and Peter Erskine, they used paradiddles in a slightly different way, which was really creative. And so really from the sort of 40s through to, well, even earlier than that, from the 30s through to the late 70s, they were used much more extensively, I think, than they are now. They're one of the early rudiments that anybody plays ever. And the reason it has a silly name, paradiddle, is because it's phonetics. So it plays like it sounds. I'll just do that. So a paradiddle is right, left, left, left. Paradiddle, paradiddle. This is a single paradiddle. There's 3 different types. Single, double and triple paradiddle in their straight form, and then there is a myriad of variations. I teach absolutely every single different type to my students. I think these are essential. I have a system of melodic drum set exercises, and they're all, the majority are built out of single paradiddles and double paradiddles. I find them endlessly fascinating. The reason, an interesting historical fact, the reason that they had these funny names, and some of the other rudiments have got names like drags, ratomacues, flam taps, is because they were for military application for drummers hundreds of years ago, before orchestral application. And the drummer boy that was going onto the battlefield, and they were boys, were usually, along with the flag bearers, the first to be killed, because they were an easy target and they were drumming up enthusiasm for the fight, so they got killed really quickly. So these phonetic little words were the way for the drum master, as it were, to teach the kids quickly, paradiddle, paradiddle, flamacue, flamacue, ratamacue, ratamacue, right, off you go into the battlefield. I saw a photograph on Twitter of a boy from the American Civil War, and he was 8. And he was all, it was one of those photographs where he'd just come off the battlefield and he was all smudged with his drum, 8 years old. So there's so much you can do with paradiddles. I find them such an interesting form. It's such a well-balanced form in its single paradiddle form, 2 singles and a double. It enables you, or it asks you to use forearm, wrist and the fingers of your hands to get the speed. So if you want to get them up to speed, not only are you using fingers in combination with the wrist and forearm, but it all has to work together if you want to get it going fast. Very simple things. I did it in the performance at the beginning. You can do such lovely things that aren't necessarily immediately noticeable. So firing the first note, the pa, off the front of them onto cymbals while playing the rest centralized on the snare drum, that's great in any part of a solo or an explosive moment at the end of a song, and it's not immediately evident what you're doing. Another thing I should point out is that single paradiddles are in 4/4, so they fit in everything, and double paradiddles are in 6/8, which is the first of, I think, 3 major time signatures that are worth exploring outside of basic Western culture, pop music, rock music, etc., which is 6/8 followed by 7/8 followed by 5/4. I'll do video lessons on time signatures at a later date. I'm not going to deal with that now, but 6 is well worth looking at. Just briefly, 6 is the count, so it's 6 eighth notes per bar. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So a double paradiddle, I'll do one of my exercises. I'll start on the snare and then just move it. What's lovely about that is it's in 6, so you're actually living in a different feel, which is very refreshing and also very, very good for the neurons of the brain. Rhythmically, you're programming yourself to feel different shapes, which is incredibly important. So a double paradiddle is this. And if I put that into something, so that's one of my cross-sticking exercises using double paradiddles. I mentioned this soloing idea. I'll just show you that slowly and then I'll speed it up slightly. And then I briefly want to talk to you about a paradiddle groove and also the idea of putting a samba bass drum underneath, which I'll show you in a minute. So the first thing is this. And that's always quite fun to just throw in somewhere nonchalantly. Yeah, so a paradiddle groove, if I play it on the ride cymbal, the paradiddle is between the bass drum and the snare drum now. And in the theme of cut-up technique, which we've been dealing with in drum and bass, dubstep and broken beats, if you take that groove and cut holes in it, you can make endlessly cool grooves out of one idea. And that was just an expression of paradiddles with holes in them. And it sounds great. Fall in love with paradiddles. If you don't fall in love with paradiddles, you're not a drummer. You must get into these, they're amazing. Gene Krupa and Buddy Rich were not wrong. Use them. So yeah, I'll demonstrate some stuff. I'll just chuck a few ideas in. I'm going to put a samba bass drum underneath, which is a 16th note offbeat to an onbeat that repeats. It's a Latin American thing, and it's nice to put underneath paradiddle. So I'll start with a straight version of that, and then I'll just do a little bit of playing around, and that will be that. So thank you very much indeed for watching this, and I've really enjoyed doing this series of lessons on the history and progression of urban rhythms, and this is the paradiddle. And I won't see you on the next video unless you've seen them all. And if you haven't, I'll see you on the previous video. So.